Can we unite all of China with the hapless Cao Bao, the worst general on the game? We're going to do it right here. Alright, welcome to the video. This is going to be interesting to a very limited number of people. It's around the Super Nintendo game Romance of the Three Kingdoms, which was released for Sega, Genesis, Super Nintendo, regular Nintendo, and computer. Probably sold a few million copies. I've got a challenge. If I was going to go back and do something on an old game like this, I was going to do something that I feel like had never been done. So today we're going to take the worst player on this game and we're going to turn him into a guy who is straight 100s on the 3 skill portions, and we're going to unite China with him. But this Romance of the Three Kingdoms 2 is based on a historical novel series, which is about 2,500 pages, and based on some history within China. The characters in the game Romance of the Three Kingdoms also appear in the regular Nintendo game Destiny of an Emperor, which was a turn-based Final Fantasy-like strategy game where they used, instead of hit points, they used soldiers. It predated Final Fantasy. It was very similar. Instead of magic, they had tactics. Pretty innovative game, kind of a search and then get into turn-based battles type of game. And the Dynasty Warriors characters are the same characters. If you played that for Xbox or PlayStation 2, that was more of an action-style game, but the same guys who were all real people, or for the most part, most of them were. That's who is in this game, Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Now, the term romance is not Shakespearean in nature. It's more of that which evokes emotion. That's how they're using the term romance in this game. Very little romance in the books or in the game. I won't say none. But so what we're going to do today, the worst player on the game, his name is Cao Bao, and I'm going to use English translations as we go through here. Sorry to any Chinese individuals that might be reading this, because Dong Zhao, for instance, would be Dong Zhuo, I believe, in Chinese. And we're going to use American translations, Zhang Fi instead of Zhang Fei, etc., etc. But Cao Bao, who would I guess be Cao Bao, the worst player on the game. He's the butt of every joke to anyone who has played this. And he appears in the novel series just for about 5 pages. He was an underling in Zhang Fi's province, and Zhang Fi was known to be bad to drink, and Liu Bi, his leader, had said not to drink when he left him in charge. He decided, yeah, tomorrow we're not drinking, but tonight we are, since we're going to outlaw drinking for the next month. And he ends up forcing Cao Bao to drink, which he didn't want to do. He said he's always abstained. Zhang Fi whipped him 50 lashes. He called for his son-in-law, Lu Bu, who is widely known as the greatest warrior in this series. Zhang Fi maybe second. And they faced off several times and had mutual respect and fear for each other. But on this game, Romance of the Three Kingdoms, you'll see Lu Bu is the only 100 in war. Zhang Fi is a 99. I think there are maybe 3 people who are 99s, a couple of 98s, 97s on down. But anyway, Zhang Fi whipped Cao Bao. He called Lu Bu to town to kind of restore his honor. Zhang Fi was drunk and had to flee. Lu Bu didn't chase him because he still feared him even though he was drunk. And ultimately, in the novel, Zhang Fi ends up putting a spear through Cao Bao and dropping him into a river a little bit later on. So what we're going to do here is take Cao Bao. We're going to start scenario 1. Okay, so in starting this scenario to run this gambit, it's going to require that I control two rulers. I'm going to use them as kind of allies, and eventually they will absorb each other. But ultimately, I'm going to pick Teo Kian, for whom Cao Bao works at the beginning of this scenario. And then Gongsun Zan, who is the least significant of all of the playable rulers in this scenario. Because I didn't want to, if I'm going to go through this, I didn't want to use someone else who's extremely prominent. So it'll be Teo Kian and Gongsun Zan. And a couple things you need to do when you first start this scenario. There's a few prominent characters that are kind of available early on, and you got to have your eye on these guys. The first one that we just mentioned a moment ago is Lu Bu. So he's got a 100 in war. He's very lacking in everything else, obviously. You want to jump on him early in your recruitment. Then Jia Zhu is a guy that you can usually get in a couple of turns. Wen Pin is a guy with an 84 war that you can often get early. And then Chen Gong has got an 81 intelligence. That'll be important as we begin to try to help Cao Bao. And then Zhang He has got a 90 war and is very attainable. Another guy named Gao Lan, Zhang Ziyu, who's pretty well rounded in the 75s in war and charm. And then one more that you want to have your eye on is Yu Fan, whose charm is fairly good, and you can use him to recruit other people. Recruiting is the name of the game throughout this game. Trying to get the most generals possible is just the way to go. So we're going to try to, kind of round up that core group. And you have to be an advisor, you have to have an 80 or higher in intellect. So Chen Gong is going to be an advisor, and he can give one set of writings per month to a character, which increases his intellect by one each month. So we're going to try to raise Cao Bao all the way up into the 90s on intellect 1 month at a time. So one set of turns takes 1 month on this game, and that's the idea. Is it's starting out with an intellect of 13. So we're going to need to get him to about 95, so 82 months of gameplay. And this whole project, there was about 50 hours of video, but probably 10 or 15 of that was, I went upstairs to have dinner, and, this thing just sat here. But that's kind of the compilation that we're putting together. Need an advisor first to increase Cao Bao's intellect. Now, with Gongsun Zan, we've got to get him moved down to an adjacent territory. So we're using the first Liu B's stronghold. We're just going to invade and then flee to the open province. And then, similarly, we're going to use Dong Zhao to that end. And this allows, us to just kind of move down and get into a reasonable position. And then, obviously, just kind of keep moving on down. and you move an advisor down into an adjacent province, loyalty is a huge element of this game, and you can only give gold to one person per month to increase their loyalty. So it becomes critical to get these two in their own province, because if you're giving writings, you can't be giving gold. So the idea here is to isolate Cao Bao with the advisor. There's a successful recruitment of Jia Zhu, who has a 95 intelligence. The advisor can only get a person to his intelligence -1. So as we continue to develop our group, getting someone who can get Cao Bao up into the high 90s becomes important, and Jia Zhu accomplishes that. Next, as we move Gongsun Zan down to the adjacent territories, I needed to recruit with him a scale of generals to use to fight Cao Bao, because when you do personal combat, if an underdog wins, he adds to his war ability an amount, half of the difference. So we're going to use Gongsun Zan and then Cao Bao to come invade. We're going to have him attack with 100 arms, and we're going to have his opponent have 1 in arms. You can buy arms, 1 to 100, as you see there. And we're going to have Cao Bao fight as an underdog, and every time he wins, he's going to scale up his war ability. All the while, we're going to be feeding him intellect points every month until we've got him into the 90s on both of those, at which point we can add a couple of items, of which there are 12 in the game that can be uncovered to help get him the rest of the way to where we need to be. Let's put a run together of Cao Bao's opponents so you can take a look at those. Okay, just like that, Cao Bao has got some great war and some great intelligence. Next point of discussion is every time you take Province 10 Luoyang, you are gifted with an item. There is one item in the game, the Ruler's Charm, which gives you a 100 charm, and Trust, which is another vector of elsewhere within the game. And before we find that item, we need to have Cao Bao being our ruler, not just a subordinate to Teo Kian. So once we have Cao Bao up into the 90s in war and intellect, we need to let Teo Kian perish, and we need to install Cao Bao as the ruler. Then we need to sack Province 10 Luoyang repeatedly, and we run a gambit whereby we take the province, we leave it with just one general who has no rice, and it goads the computer into retaking the province. Then we just load up with a 5-person dream team again and come in and take it and wash, rinse, repeat. And you can kind of see here the different items that you can pull, including, of course, the ruler's charm. The interesting portion here is once I installed Cao Bao, the loyalties across the empire here were just horrible. And if you played this game, you know loyalty, you never want anyone to be below maybe 75, ideally all in the 90s. I had guys down into the teens, and some of them will just leave you when they get below 20. But Cao Bao, at the time of his appointment, only had a 15 in charm. He was only able to move guys about 3 points personally. I put charming rulers in all of my other provinces to try to help keep the loyalty up and try to spread out the good ones for a while. It took maybe 5 years of gameplay before Cao Bao was able to, get everyone to a reasonable loyalty. Now, once I got this charm amulet, or the one I'm talking about, which we'll show you in a second, he went to a 100 charm and it became a lot easier. But let's take a look at that. Now I'm just going to play a cut of the various items that we won by taking Luoyang, including that charm amulet or ruler's seal, whatever it's called. And then also, you find one intellect item and give it to Cao Bao. That pushes him to a 100 there. You find one war item and give it to him, pushes him to a 100 there. So now we have Cao Bao, the worst general in the game, at straight 100s, ruling his empire. From here, just going to connect the dots and war our way to general victory. You can take a look. Couple of funny things out of order here. Once Sun Chi died of natural causes, I was able to just straight up recruit one of his provinces away. I mentioned the loyalties go way down when you have to change rulers, so that was kind of funny. I'd also submitted, let the computer take over Gongsun Zan, and I left him high and dry with no soldiers, no money, terrible province. And you can actually threaten another ruler, and if you can't do a human one, but you're able to just grab someone and take their whole province away. I'm going to go ahead and play the full final battle to take over Zhu Shao. Wan Shao had died of natural causes, and I had raided his inventory of generals so deep that Zhu Shao ended up becoming the leader of the white cream colored provinces. And this is the final battle. Sent a pretty nice team in there. Cao Bao at 100, Lu Bu, Zhang Fi, Guan Yu, and Dian Wei. This is the final battle for the uniting of China. Cao Bao has done it once this province is overtaken, and I will leave the cinema screens for the final uniting of the Chinese Three Kingdoms period. An empire long divided must unite, long united must divide. And there it is. Cao Bao unified China. He did it, folks. Zhu Liang, my advisor, is going to show some of the other prominent generals. I'm not sure exactly how it decides whom to demonstrate. There's Guan Yu, Sima Yi, Zhang Liao, Zhu Yu, Zhu Shu, Qing Pu, and you got Peng Tong up at the top, Lu Zun, forget that guy's name, Zhang something, and then Zhao Dun up top, Zhu Jin, Zhu Liang's brother, who, when they visited him at the thatched cottage, told him he was sleeping. Zhao Tai here, Guo Jia. And then there's Cao Bao up at the top, his great dream achieved. Qin Gong, my first advisor. Zhao Wan is actually a cousin of Cao Cao. I thought about beheading the Zhao line because of that. I always beheaded everyone who's a Cao or a son. There's Man Chong, Huang Gai, all right. Thanks for watching as they bring us out. To play us out like Bill O'Reilly.